Hello everyone. In today's video we're going to be talking about how to take the derivative of a function using the product rule. The general form when we have to use the product rule to find the derivative is when we have a function that equals two functions that are multiplying together. So it would look something like f of x equals g of x times h of x. To take the derivative of this, we are first going to take the derivative of the first equation, which will be g prime of x. Then we're going to multiply that by the second equation left alone, plus the derivative of the second equation, which would be h prime of x, times the first left alone. This is going to be the general equation for finding the derivative using the product rule. Take the derivative of the first, multiply it by the original of the second, plus the derivative of the second times the original of the first. The first function that we're going to find the derivative of is going to be x cubed times 3x to the fifth minus 2. Our two functions are x cubed and 3x to the fifth minus 2. So when we take the derivative of f of x, first we're going to take the derivative of x cubed, which is 3x squared. We're going to multiply that by the original of the second, which is 3x to the fifth minus 2. Then we're going to add this to the derivative of the second. The derivative of 3x to the fifth minus 2 is 15x to the fourth times the original of the first, which is x cubed. The next function that we're going to find the derivative of is f of x equals x squared times 2x to the fourth minus 5. When we take the derivative here, we're going to find the derivative of x squared, which is 2x, times the second left alone, plus the derivative of the second, which would be 8x to the third, times the first left alone. You can simplify this function. However, most teachers do not require you to go that far. This is usually far enough when you're taking a Calculus 1 course, unless the directions specify to simplify. The next function that we're going to take the derivative of is f of x equals 2x to the third times negative x to the third plus 3. When we take the derivative, first we find the derivative of 2x to the third, which is 6x squared, times the second left alone, plus the derivative of the second, which is going to be negative 3x squared, times the first left alone. The next function is f of x equals negative 4x to the fourth plus 1 times negative 4x to the fourth. When we take the derivative here, the derivative of the first is going to be negative 16 times x to the third, and we're going to leave the second left alone, negative 4x to the fourth, plus the derivative of the second is going to be negative 16x to the third times the first left alone, negative 4x to the third, plus 1. Next we have f of x equals negative 5x to the fourth minus 3x to the third minus 2 times 3x to the third minus 2. When we take the derivative, we're going to take the derivative of the first parenthesis first. That's going to be negative 20x to the third minus 9x squared. And we're going to multiply this by the second left alone. We're going to add this to the derivative of the second, which is going to be 9x squared times the first left alone, which is negative 5x to the fourth minus 3x to the third minus 2. Next, we're going to have f of x equals 4x to the fifth minus 5 times negative x to the fourth plus x squared plus 2. When we take the derivative, we're going to take the derivative of the first part first. 4x to the fifth minus 5, when we take the derivative of that, we're going to get 20x to the fourth. And then the second part stays the same. Plus the derivative of the second, which will be negative 4x to the third plus 2x times the first parentheses left the same. 4x to the fifth minus 5. The next function we have is f of x equals negative x to the fifth plus 2x to the fourth plus 4 times x to the third plus 3. When we take the derivative of this, we're going to take the derivative of the first parenthesis. That's going to be negative 5x to the fourth plus 8x to the third. Remember that the 4 disappears, times the original of the second, plus the derivative of the second, which is 3x squared plus 3, times the first, oh, I messed up here. There should be no plus 3. That 3 will disappear when we take the derivative of it. And we're going to multiply this by the first left alone. So minus x to the fifth plus 2x to the fourth plus 4. Next we have f of x equals 1 plus 3x to the negative 3 times x cubed plus 1. When we take the derivative of the first, the 1 disappears, and we're going to have negative 9x to the power of negative 4 times x cubed plus 1 plus the derivative of the second, which is 3x squared times the first left alone. 1 plus 3x to the power of negative 3. Next we have f of x equals negative 5 minus x to the power of negative 3 times x to the fifth plus 2. At this point, I want you to take a moment to try this problem on your own. Try to take the derivative using the product rule and see if you get the answer right. So I'll give you a second to work on it. I'm assuming at this point you've been able to pause the video and you've worked on it. So now let's get into taking the derivative. F prime of x equals the derivative of the first is going to be 3x to the power of negative 4. The negative 5 disappears, and we're going to multiply negative 3 times the negative 1 in front of x. That gives us positive 3. And whenever we're taking the derivative, we have to subtract the exponent by 1. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. And we're going to multiply this by the second left alone, which is x to the 5th plus 2. Next, we're going to add this by taking the derivative of the second. That's going to give us 5x to the 4th. And we're going to multiply this by the first left alone. Minus 5 minus x to the power of negative 3. The last question that we're going to go over in this video is f of x equals 1 plus 1 over x to the 5th times 3x to the 4th minus 2. The first thing that we're going to do before we take the derivative is we're going to rewrite this fraction to have x as a negative exponent instead of a fraction. We're going to get rid of the fraction. And that's going to be 1 plus x to the power of negative 5 times 3x to the 4th minus 2. Now when we take the derivative, we're going to take the derivative of the first, which will be negative 5x to the power of negative 6 times the second left alone, 3x to the 4th minus 2, plus the derivative of the second, which will be 12x to the 3rd times the first left alone, which will be 1 plus x to the power of negative 5. If you learned something new in this video, make sure that you leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're looking for one-on-one tutoring, check out the link in the description. And if you have any other questions regarding derivatives, whether it's product rule, power rule, chain rule, make sure that you leave your question in the comments, and I'll try my best to answer all of them. I'll see you in the next one.